certainly tell me when we're up and we can go from there, Ashley.
Sounds good. All right, go ahead.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Colin Rush, and I'm with Clean Seed Agricultural Technologies. Today's a really exciting day for us because we get to introduce to you the brand new Smart Seeder Max and Max S precision digital seeding models. So I'm going to give you an exclusive peek at the Smart Seeder Max S in action. But before we get into that, I want to ask you a few questions here. If you could have anything you want on your farming operation, some of those things that unlock those yield opportunities, those cost savings with inputs, maybe agronomics that you've never dreamt of doing because you've had limitations in the technology on your seeding and planting equipment. I'd like to introduce to you a whole new class of digital planting and seeding technology, the Smart Seeder Max S. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a quick moment here, and Ashley is going to play our new video. So welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the really exclusive first look at the Smart Seeder Max S. We're very proud at Clean Seed of what we've accomplished here, bringing you something totally different in digital planting and seeding with unique capabilities to really unlock those yield opportunities, save on those inputs, and maximize your farming operations. if you thought about some of those questions of things that you'd like to see in that next generation machine, we talked about something that maybe is, I want something that works in all field conditions, a true no-till machine. Well, on the Smart Seeder Max S, we do this with a very unique coulter shank combination called our DX opener. It has a 24-inch sawtooth coulter held back against a cast shank opener, which is a triple shot opener with a spring, so it keeps them tight. It cuts into a furrow, entering at 90 degrees in the ground, which basically allows us to part that material, allows that opener to go through, to create a furrow, to apply those products there. If you look on the left side, it's a very narrow profile, and that is designed to minimize any of that soil exposure you would see with going deep with traditional shank openers. Disc openers, especially ones that are running on angle, can hairpin in certain conditions. So the cutting action with the sawtooth coulter is key to having that all conditioned machine. So what does it look like? So on the left side, very typical. You'll see those stems and that organic matter essentially sheared off. You'll see that in green. You'll see that in some of that just off the combine or even decayed organic matter. But cutting action is only one piece of the puzzle. If we want a true all-conditioned machine, we have to move that product through the machine. Now we have a single rank machine, but we have 24-inch staggered rows. And what you're going to see as we go through here is we have stationary parts besides moving parts. And as we go through a very heavy slug of pea stubble, you'll see some material start to build up between the rows. But because we have those rotating parts, they're able to clear the machine, and you can see that. And we see this time and time again, allows the machine to operate in relatively unconditioned fields with all that organic matter and doing a good job of flowing that trash through. So we've talked about the sawtooth coulter. Let's talk about the cast opener itself. And this is different than anything that's out there in the industry. So it is a triple shot opener, but we have a tip that runs just above where the sawtooth coulter runs. As that coulter opens up that very narrow seed trench, we have a 3/4 inch carbide tip. That carbide tip shatters that soil as we go through the trench. That soil then passes over what we call the biowings. Those biowings agitate the soil. Now, as your fertilizer comes down deep to the bottom of the trench, that aerated, fluffy soil basically covers up the furrow and gets to the top of what we call the seed ports here. That allows those seedlings that you place having a very aerated, fluffy area for that roots to grow down immediately. So we see very quick emergence, great root development, especially when it's very, very dry conditions or very wet conditions. We allow water to easily penetrate from above, but also access that water from below a lot easier than traditional seeding operations. What does it look like? Well, this is a leading dual shank precision air seeder on the left-hand side and the DX opener on the right-hand side. We see, almost triple the root mass. We see that early emergence. We see more consistency, which we'll get into on row. But we see where that cutting action has cleared those rows. And in between that, we have that 8-inch undisturbed spot for basically preserving that organic matter. Because we have a triple shot opener and really a 4-inch paired row, we can open up options. You don't have to do a 4-inch paired row, but we might want to do that in cereals where we take part of that seed bed utilization. We don't want all that black soil. We want to preserve moisture and organic matter in between. What about peas though? Peas are an interesting one. Single row peas, sometimes depending on air distribution, especially create gaps and they fall over. They can introduce disease pressure. But with a 4-inch paired row, those peas basically stand on each other. On the right-hand side of the picture, you can see that 8 inches in between kind of a perfect stand of peas. And this is, again, a crop with the DX opener. So this is, again, an option in your agronomic toolkit brought to you by the Smart Seeder Max S. Have you ever wanted to do this? Planting green. Well, we know some planters on the market can do this, aggressive row cleaners with large row width spacings. But can you do it on a 12-inch spacing? So on the right-hand side, you see the Smart Seeder Max X that that cutting action. It pushes that green material, cuts it to the side, creates that furrow opportunity, put that seed, that fertility down in growing condition. Again, opening up that agronomic toolkit in digital planting and seeding. I often get asked, well, what about direct seeding into hayland? Can you do it? Well, answer is absolutely yes. On the left-hand side, you almost see it looks like a surgical scalpel has cut into that sod. And because we use a coulter, the draft load is hugely reduced as we pull the Smart Seeder Max S through the field. You can set your depth, and that crop will come up direct into hayland without the horsepower and the draft load that you're used to seeing with the shank machine, or even those old haybuster direct seeding tools. And finally, field finish. If we go into a relatively unconditioned or non-conditioned field, this is a field of pea stubble here from this fall. Basically 2 days off of the combine, heavy mat of organic material. As we basically push that organic material to the sides, we have our closing wheels, which basically do a nice job of closing up that furrow. And it creates a very even field finish. And you can see that organic material now is in between the rows, designed to kind of suppress some of those weeds, keep that moisture there, and protect those seedlings as they get started. So we talked about the ground engaging components, but because we meter over top of the row, which I'll get to in a second, and we have a triple shot opener, we can place our products multiple different ways. So we know we have a 3-port opener on the Smart Seeder Max and the DX opener. We talked about a right side opener here on the 4-inch paired row. We talked about the left side opener, and that deep, which is down 2.5 inches below. But because the way we meter over top of the row, we can start to split these things. So we can do, each product can do a paired row, which is the number 4 position. And we can also do a deep band and a side band split. So you can open up those rates, not only with the variable rate, increasing that seed safety in the furrow, you could basically put it in multiple different locations. And this is available for any different product. Finally, this year, we've added a Singulation tube with the S model, which stands for Singulation, that puts that singulated product gently out on the right side seed ledge. So again, these are tools designed to open up agronomics, things you haven't thought of before. So we know we can vary multiple products down over the row, and we know we can place them differently. What about trying to affect things that maybe have been hard for us? Phosphorus availability or soil pH, can we change in the furrow? So the left side is a graph from Yara, actually, and it shows really that range of a maximum phosphorus availability is between that pH 6 and 7. And we're lucky enough in Western Canada, most of our crops are there. Now you get into Northern Alberta, where we've been into synthetic fertilizers for a long time. We are having some pH issues, which are limiting our yield potential. But let's talk about placement. Now we can meter, different microns of products, and we can put it both with the seed, below the seed, in the root zone. If you look at things like superphos, putting it in the furrow, managing the placement of that product and the rate. What about lime? Right now, we talk about liming a field, whether it's SoCal or lime, multi-thousands of pounds per acre, and then incorporating that to get effective soil pH adjustment. Talk about maintenance lime, putting that, maybe not in a pelletized form, but below and with the root zone, and opening up those capabilities. Again, this is opening up that agronomic toolbox with the Smart Seeder Max S. I want to talk about consistency and really inconsistency, and we're going to talk about air. Now, we do use air to bring the product over top of our rows, but we don't meter with air. This was a study done a couple of years ago, 5 different brands of air seeders. And what it was to measure was through the left wing, center wing, and right wing is what is the percentage of product variance that is coming out these different hoses, essentially the amount of product. And the results are dramatic. From 29%, through a third, up to even 98%, which is mind-boggling. So we have these very, accurate carts that meter out, but you can't really tell where the product is going, and it's all over the map. Let me put it a different way. The same 5 brands of air seeders here And we're going to count plant populations now. So this is wheat plants we're going to take. And we take 10 rows this time. And we do a minimum, a maximum, and a mean. So if we look at this and we say, okay, well, I was shooting for, what plant population, where are the numbers? And some, air seeders do better than others. But this is your yield potential. These plants are basically what give you your yield. Now, some of you might say, look, no, cereals, they'll tiller, and canolas, they'll fill in with additional pods. And that's true to an extent. So let's take it one step further. What about the harvest? So if you were to hand harvest those rows, and this was a triple replicated study, which said, look, I'm going to go in and harvest each rows. And when you look at these things, just this is a bit of an eye chart here. So I'll give you some color on it, which is the minimum and maximum. That's about 100 bushels per acre difference if you took that on a per acre basis. So if you took out even the outliers, that high and that low, and you went off the mean, you'd see between a 20 and 50, 60% variance in the row. And you have to ask yourself is, well, wait a minute, that row is only 10 or 12 inches next to the other one. Why is there such a difference? Well, the answer is air distribution is doing that. You don't see this with the combine. You take that 30-foot, 40-foot, 50-foot head that's harvesting and the combine separating it. This gets kind of lost in translation. So really the question becomes, if this is your flat rate, are you really doing variable rate applications with your current planting and seeding technology? So one of the things I like to ask is why would you want a meter way back here? You're accurately metered here, then you're putting it into air, which we know does not divide evenly, it divides randomly, and it puts it out down to the furrow. Why wouldn't you want a meter directly over top of the furrow at the specific rates you want, exactly at the location you want, with the product placement you want in the furrow? So again, metering over top of the row, multiple variable rate products is one of the core technologies of the Smart Seeder Max S. What does metering over top of the row give us volumetrically? Well, it gives us very consistent product flow. You can see in spring wheat, fall rye, canola, you see that emergence, which comes up very, very quickly, very evenly. It reduces harvest timing issues. It suppresses some of those weed and disease pressures that you see through crops that have to fill in. And it gives you those seeds the best chance of coming up. So we talked about some of the variances in row to row with air distribution, and we know we can meter over top of the row. So let's talk about controlling every square foot. So there's a bit of a buzzword going on, Agriculture 5.0, which is capturing a lot of data and then creating it into actionable items, actionable data. So this is a great illustration from Farmer's Edge, which captures this ecosystem. You have everything from daily satellite imagery, weather stations, telematics, scouting app, soil sampling, and there's lots more. There's EC, there's elevation, yield data, and you put it into a platform to really crunch your recommendations. So we're turning these into actions. So goes into maps, visualizations, even some predictive modeling, profit analysis. But the one we should look at here is your VR prescription. This is essentially telling the machine where to go and what to apply. And my thought on this is, if your machine inherently has errors, and those errors are compounded when we give them essentially inputs to apply, outcomes of plans are only as good as their execution. Why wouldn't you want to try to remove one of the largest controllable variables in the application of your seed and fertilizer? Let's talk about resolution. Because we meter over top of the openers, we essentially our as applied data and our input data look exactly the same. And because we have that quick change right over top of the row, it allows us to increase our resolution. Now, 3-meter resolution, it's kind of considered that high resolution today in the industry. What about 30 centimeters squared, that foot resolutions? We can do that. If you're not interested in resolution at all, you still have, maybe you only have a couple soil zones, you still have all of those benefits of metering over top of the row, that row by row shutoff, turn compensation, and that evenly distributed product. How do we do that? Well, it's very simple. We have 300 different independent product control points. So we have a bank of 4 volumetric meters here, and we have 1 singulation meter. Each of these meters are driven by what we call stepper motor technology. Stepper motor technology is an electric motor. It's hugely precise. It's low voltage, low amperage. It's even used in robotics. We can ramp that up, ramp it down, start, stop it, and change the rate infinitely variable. You saw in the video Brad taking out one of the volumetric motors. In this quick video, you see this is our cushion drive volumetric meter. There's 240 of these on the machine, and each one of them is really an independent seeder. It allows maximum seed safety, and again, that same stepper motor technology that we can control one product in one row, infinitely variable, multi-product variable rate right over the row and over the furrow. So we talked about all the benefits of volumetric seeding, metering over top of the row. Is plants per acre the target? Is Singulation the ultimate tool? Well, do you think Singulation adds any value to the crops I grow? Why wouldn't I just use a planter or an air drill? Why would I change? Are there compromises that we want to look at? This slide, I don't think tells anybody anything different than they already knew on this, is non-uniform stands of canola do not yield as much as uniform stands. And this was a 2014 peer research article, which says, like, we can give you up to a 32% increase with optimized spatial patterns. And we're talking singulation and even distribution. So we know volumetric gives us very even distribution. Well, singulation takes it to the next level. We can define plant stands. So we talked about that stepper motor control, that very precise high resolution control. This is a video of singulation on the Smart Seeder Max S, and we're singulating those canola seeds one at a time. They're dropping into the furrow at the seed population, and this speeds up and slows down with ground speed, and the population is defined. We can do most crops: canola, hemp, corn, soybeans, and peas. We're working on others. But if you take the simulation where you can optimize those patterns to increase your yield, you can also look at decreasing rates of product. So this is really a win-win combined with volumetric metering over top of the row. When we do it right, what does it look like? Well, those plants come up, one at a time, just like you put them down. Now, this technology is not new. Planters have the ability to do this simulation, but combined with volumetric metering, it gives those plants the best chance with fertility and the best profit margin, because you're doing it in one pass, exactly the fertility in the furrow where you need it. So again, whether you want 120,000 canola plants or 180,000 or 250,000 plants of peas, that's your choice. Just like in volumetric, we see those picket row, basically picket fence rows come up very easily. We see them bolting at the same time and blooming. Again, increasing yields, decreasing costs, and now we have the fertility to put directly underneath it, exactly what we define row by row. So what about compromises? Why wouldn't I use a planter? Well, planters are great tools. They have the precision planting of seeds. You can control the depth and the pressure very well. They can be very high speed, up to 12 miles an hour. But where they kind of fall down is they have very limited fertility in the furrow. They do put on a little bit of pop-up for that starter fertilizer. But almost all planters need separate pass or passes for fertility application. So we're only addressing half of the issue. We're very precise with our seed placement, but fertility is not optimized. It's not in the furrow. It's not at the rates we need in the furrow to maximize our profit on our farm. Air drills are very similar, except they're highly efficient one-pass machines. They do put fertility and seeding down all at once for the growing season, but they're just not precise. We looked at that row-to-row variances, and even though they're efficient, they're not optimizing your yield on a plant-by-plant basis. So I like to say is, wouldn't you like to have the benefits of both a planter and an air drill and more? So in this case, 1 + 1 equals way more than 2 with the Smart Seeder Max. How about something kind of unique? Multi-hybrid, intercropping, cover cropping. It can be hard, but because we meter over top of the row, it's actually quite easy for us. We can use each row to put down one crop with its own fertility needs at the right depth we want, And we can replicate that across many different rows. So if you wanted to put down 1, 2, 3, or even 5 different crops, one every 5th row, you could do that. Maybe not practical, but again, this is opening up agronomics for you in not just a monoculture, but opening up the biodiversity options on your farm. Is it easy to do? Absolutely. In the software here, you basically select the product you want to put down. You define the rate, whether it's in pounds per acre or in Singulation plants per acre. And you select the additional products. So fertility that you want to go with it. You click all rows, odd rows, even rows, third rows, or even custom. And then you can repeat for additional products. So you finished and you go seeding. So let the Smart Seeder Max do the heavy lifting for you when it comes to intercropping and multi-hybrid. Even if you want to have different, variety of that crop on the hilltops versus the draws, you can set that up. And it has to be easy. Seed Sync is our suite of software applications. It's very intuitive to use, allows for cloud export capabilities to all platforms, wireless connectivity. But because we let the machine do the heavy lifting in terms of the processing power, we can optimize the user interface. So that's iOS, Android, multiple devices. So Seed Sync has taken a giant leap forward on this, and it's very intuitive to use because we want essentially to have a good user experience. This is just a quick graph of our operations screen. We have navigation down the side. You've got your imagery and your data layers here. We have Singulation up top and shows all the different 60 motors on each. And then we have our 4 volumetric, which show each meter. Down below, we have tank capacities. All of this is user configurable. All of this is easy and intuitive once you're exposed to it. And I look forward to sharing more with you later this month. So let me ask you a question. Are you a smart seeder? Have you the tools on your farm to really unlock all those agronomic things you want to try? It's up to you to push the boundaries of yield and agronomics on your farm. Are you missing some of those tools? If you saw something in this presentation that you're really intrigued with the capabilities, that unique and disruptive capabilities of the Smart Seeder Max, please get in touch with me directly, and I'll certainly, open it up for any questions now. So, Ashley, do we have any questions?
We do, Colin. Joanne has asked, when seeding different crop kinds, how much variability in depth?
So if I understand the question, you're talking about different crop types for intercropping. You can set each opener basically at its own depth. So each row has its own depth control, and it's as simple as really moving the lever at the back of the row unit.
All right. Anyone else have any other questions? You can post them on the right-hand side in the little chat. We've got a couple minutes left.
Yeah, and I'll be around through Feed Loop, so people can message me directly or feel free to email me outside of the show as well. But looking forward to multiple machines here being out this spring, and then our commercial order program opening up at the end of May 2021.
I've got a couple more here. Ross is wondering how much one will cost.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Ross. We haven't finalized all the pricing here yet. It will be a premium machine, but it will be only a slight premium to what we consider, some of the premium machines in the market. The capabilities are far and beyond a lot of what other manufacturers can do. And so there is a bit of a premium there, but the return that you'll get out of it is going to be tremendous. So we'll have the pricing out a little bit later this spring, and look forward to talking to you then.
And one final question. Daniel is wondering if you could describe how the large tanks supply the hoppers on the rows.
Sure. So the large tank, we do have a trailing cart. It has 5 different tanks, and we actually do a 2-stage transfer. This is actually our same smart cart technology that we had previously. So we do a constant transfer up on board to what we call mini tanks. The mini tanks only hold a bushel, And they have advanced sensors in there, which basically supply the bulk fill that goes over top of the rows of the volumetric meters, as well as the singulation meters. So as the system demands more product, depends on which row, the tanks will automatically refill the kind of the 1 bushel mini tanks on top of the seeder. It's a very efficient automated process. It doesn't require any fiddling as you go, and it works very well for us.
Okay, more have come in. We'll do one more, and then Colin, I might get you to go into this session and answer them directly in the chat.
Sure.
So Joanne has another. There are concerns about the weight of the CX6, particularly in wetter soils. How does the new CX6 compare to other air seeders?
Yeah. So the Smart Seeder Max is a considerably a lighter unit. We've removed that product with the tanks, which was considerable over top of the tracks from the CX6 into a optimized trailing cart design. So our unit is comparable to direct seeding units of similar spacing on the market today. We also have very narrow transport, getting down to under 18 feet on highways, single fold machine. So again, the compaction is being reduced dramatically because we've moved that weight off from the tank side into an optimized trailing cart.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Colin.
Great.
If you have any questions for Colin, you can chat with him directly, and he will answer Derek and Dwayne in the chat for this particular session.
Okay, I'll just be there in a minute, guys. But again, thanks for attending our session.
All right.